All right, hi there. This is the chapter 15 test covering manifest destiny. I'll go through your questions one at a time. Feel free to pause, rewind, do what you need to do to make sure you've got it. Make sure you're following along on your paper copy, and you should be all set. All right, let's start with number one. The belief that the United States had the right and duty to expand across the North American continent came to be known as A. The Monroe Doctrine, B. The Great Experiment, C. Oregon Fever, or D. Manifest Destiny. Number two, President Thomas Jefferson's purchase of Louisiana, A. was a costly mistake, B. doubled the size of the United States, C. was opposed by Western farmers, or D. led to war with Great Britain. Number three, Florida was acquired by Secretary of State John Quincy Adams through A. trickery, B. warfare, C. diplomacy, or D. purchase. Number four, how did President James Polk deal with the dispute between the United States and Great Britain over Oregon country? A. He agreed to joint occupancy of Oregon. B. He stood up to Britain by seizing all of Oregon by force. C. He gave in to Britain by ceding most of Oregon. D. He compromised with Britain by accepting half of Oregon. Number five, the annexation of Texas was opposed by many Americans because A. Texas allowed slavery, B. Spain still claimed Texas, C. The purchase price was too high, or D. Texas was too large to be a state. Number six, the war with Mexico began with A. California's Bear Flag Rebellion, B. a border dispute in Texas, C. the Battle of Buena Vista, D. a U.S. invasion of New Mexico. Number seven, in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, what ended the Mexican War? A. The United States agreed that its invasion of Mexico was unjust. B. Mexico agreed to pay the United States $15 million in war damages. C. The United States promised to honor Mexico's claim to California. D. Mexico ceded about half of its territory to the United States. Number eight, the Gadsden Purchase of 1853 was made mainly to A. provide a good railroad route to California, B. greatly enlarge the territory of Arizona, C. to stop illegal immigration from Mexico to the United States, D. settle a long border dispute with Mexico. So for this one, you want to use the map for numbers 9, 10, and 11, and take a look closely at the map as I ask these questions. So number 9, the main purpose of this map is to show A. how the United States and Britain agreed to divide Oregon, B. the full route of the Oregon Trail, C. the mountain ranges running through Oregon, D. how large Oregon country was. Who claimed the land south of Oregon country? Was it A. Alaska, B. Mexico, C. Great Britain, or D. the United States? Your compass rose, we're looking south of Oregon country. So that brings us to number 11. What part of North America was claimed by Russia in 1846? Was it A. Alaska, B. Canada, C. California, or D. Oregon? Now we've got another map For numbers 12, 13, and 14, take a look and use this map. Which territory was ceded by Spain, given over to the United States by Spain, to the United States in 1819? So which territory was given by Spain to the United States in 1819? Was it this territory, number 6? Was it this territory, number 5? Was it this territory, number 3? Or was it this territory, letter D? Which two territories were won from Mexico as a result of the war? So number 13, which two territories were won from Mexico as a result of war? Was it territories 1 and 3? Or is it, for letter B, was it 2 and 4? Was it letter C, 3 and 5? Or was it letter D, 4 and 6? And here's number 14. Which territory was purchased from Mexico in 1853? Was it letter A, number 1, letter B, number 6, letter C, number 2, letter D, number 5? All right, so here we go with the last one. I'll read through this once. Make sure you go back to it, and then I'll ask the questions. Many tales have been told about the Alamo and the men who died there in 1836. One of the most moving is the story of William Travis's last speech to his men. "My brave companions," began the leader of the men defending the old mission, "our fate is sealed. Within a few days, perhaps a few hours, we must all be in eternity." Travis drew his sword and scratched a line in the sand in front of him. He invited all who were willing to stay and fight to cross that line. The rest were free to save themselves by leaving. One by one, the men stepped across the line in the sand. Jim Bowie, who was too ill to stand, had himself carried across in his bed. Finally, one man, Lewis Moses Rose, stood alone on the other side of the line. That night, Rose fled the Alamo. We know this story only because he lived to tell the tale. Number 15. The event described in this passage took place during A. Jackson's invasion of Florida, B. The Texas War for Independence, C. California's Bear Flag Rebellion, or D. The War with Mexico. Number 16. The only source of the story told in this passage was A. William Travis, B. Jim Bowie, C. Lewis Moses Rose, or D. Davy Crockett. Number 17. Travis uses the term eternity in his speech to mean A. Time without beginning or end, B. The afterlife or life after death, C. A very long time, D. Forever and ever. Number 18. Which fact is found in the passage? A. Jim Bowie was too ill to stand, B. The Alamo's defenders were afraid, C. The Alamo is located in San Antonio, D. Travis died defending the Alamo. Number 19. What prediction does Travis make in the passage? A. Santa Anna will destroy the Alamo, B. The men who die at the Alamo will be remembered as heroes, C. Those who choose to stay and defend the Alamo will die, D. Lewis Moses Rose will live to describe the Alamo's last days. This passage is an example of A. A primary source written by an eyewitness to an event, B. A secondary source written by a historian about an event, C. A piece of fiction written about an event that never happened, or D. an opinion written to express the author's views. All right, this is the end of the multiple choice. I'm sure you did a great job. Make sure you're going back, checking your work. Now use this information, all the stuff in the test, to help you with your essay. Take a look at it, go back to the information, ask questions when things don't make sense. All right, see you next time.